at that time we had a fitting that day or the day before, and he missed it, and he was kind of disappearing at that time, like at night, vaguely saying like meetings. He had meetings, but then he'd be gone for sometimes like 2 days. Just not coming home and that sort of thing. Coming home after a bender.
Calls for speculation as to bender.
I don't think that calls for speculation.
I'll sustain the objection. He's gone for 2 days. Good.
And I had my birthday was coming up, and or on my birthday I said, are you gonna make it to my birthday party? We had a dinner planned at our penthouse. I said it would be important for me if you made it.
Objection, hearsay.
Not offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted. Thank you.
And he told me at some point that day that he had scheduled a business meeting or a money meeting, I think he said, maybe, at 7, which is around the time my birthday was planned for. It might have been planned for 8 p.m. He, of course, once my party was starting, he wasn't there. Texted me at some point to let me know that he was going to make it, but that he was running late. And that continued throughout my party. We finished dinner, and when we were cleaning up and kind of everyone was still leaving because we were waiting to give him an opportunity to show up before everyone left. And he let me know he was there. I tried to, without saying what I said, I tried to give him the impression that I wasn't going to get on him about drinking or anything. I just wanted him to be there. And we had a toast. We did a celebratory toast. And the guests left. And later that evening, we were in bed, and I had a book, and Johnny effectively said, what's your fucking problem now? And at the time we were getting advice from therapists without saying what they said. It was important for me not to make him feel attacked. So I chose my words carefully. I won't say what I said, but I remember being very careful about how I worded what I was feeling about my birthday and him having missed it. An argument followed that. I got up out of bed. Johnny's side of the bed was closer to the door than mine. I remember him blocking the door, blocking me to get out, kind of shoving me down, and we had a verbal argument, and then that became a shoving match. I tried to shove him back. I kind of felt myself retreat into the bedroom. At some point, he picked up a large, I guess it's a Magnum size, not a normal size, a large size bottle of champagne, and hurled it at me. This time it went through a painting, and I loved this painting. I remember it just went like right through the canvas, left a giant hole in it. And I remember thinking we shouldn't have art in our bedroom anymore. And the fight continued into the salon area, which was outside of our bedroom at the top of the stairs. Johnny picked up my phone. I don't know why. I don't remember what he was saying when he did it, but he picked up my phone and threw it out of the open window of the salon area, out onto the street, out onto the downtown street that this window overlooked. In that moment, I went, oh, no, you don't. I saw his on the countertop and picked it up and threw his immediately, like 2 seconds later. I didn't want to be stranded this time alone, meaning I didn't want to be the only one stranded without a phone, which had happened to me already several times before this from Johnny. So I picked up his phone, threw it as well. And I said that I wanted to go stay somewhere else for the evening. I left that room, went into the office, we were still screaming names at each other and screaming at each other. And I walk around the side of his desk, and the next thing I know, he has me by the hair and he pulls me down. Kind of, I hit the side of the desk. I remember things flying off of the side of the desk that I hit with my body. I remember trying to fight him off of me. At some point, we're back in my main bedroom, and I believe I was getting my toothbrush out of that bathroom, and when I came out, we had another shoving match, but this one, he kind of like, I remember he chest bumped me in this like bro-y way, chest bumped me and fell to the floor, and when I got back up, he kind of held me down by the shoulders down on the side of the bed, kind of held me, wrestled me down on the bed. I remember I got up once or twice before I ended up on the bed, and he grabbed me, did this thing that he did sometimes, and he would taunt me, grab me by the pubic bone, pubic area. Just as best I can describe it is he kind of just pushed me down, held me down by it, and kind of pulled me into it, and he was asking me, kind of taunting me, asking me if I thought I was so fucking tough. I think you're such a fucking tough guy, huh? Are you so tough now? Look who's so tough. You want to be a man? Tough like a man now? That happened for a bit of time. I'm not quite sure. I think at some point he left. I remember at some point shortly after that, I remember he was still in the apartment when this happened, but I remember kind of collapsing on the floor and being exhausted. It's just, I remember feeling exhausted and crying and kind of throwing in the towel, if you will. I remember saying to him, just, can we not fight like this? Like, can we start over? Is there anything that we can do? Like, this is really messed up, but can we just not do this, please? Can we stop doing this? Just don't leave. It's my birthday. Let's just call it couch. Let's call it truce and not have it end like this. I don't want to have it end like this. I was just so tired and hurt. And I remember crying and feeling ridiculous that after this I would be crying and saying these things. I'm embarrassed saying it now. He responded cruelly. He told me it's what I fucking deserve, and that I'd wake up alone, and that no one would ever love me because all of this, pointing to my face or body, all of this was gonna go away. No one would ever love me, or my tits sag, no one would ever love me, and I better get used to waking up alone. And he said this was all my fault and what I asked for. And he left. I heard him come back in the downstairs. You know, you can hear the door slam. I remember hearing it open and thinking, oh God, is this gonna happen again? What's going on now? And then shortly after, I kind of peeked around to the top of the stairs where you can kind of peer into the lower level. And I just see him briefly, momentarily, and he just screams at me, happy fucking birthday, and stormed out. At some point, I walked downstairs and saw that he had also left me a note to that effect.
How did he leave a note for you?
It was written on a piece of paper as best I can recall, but I'm not sure.
And so then the next day, what did you do?
I texted, actually, well, I can't say what I texted. I woke up that morning, the morning of my 30th birthday, and I woke up to my best friend crawling in bed with me and putting her arms around me. And I remember wondering how she walked in, because there was a lot of glass on the floor. There's lots of glass. And she put her arms around me and showed me a birthday video that all of my friends, my childhood friends, all of my loved ones made. Of course, stupidly, the first thing I asked her is why Johnny wasn't in the video, because it had been recorded before. It had been recorded sometime before it was clear. And she said that she'd been asking for a few months, and Johnny just...
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
I offered to prove the truth.
All right, I'll overrule. Go ahead.
And so we eventually got out of my bed and grabbed a few things and got the dogs, left for our plans, which our plans had been to go to Coachella, which is a music festival that happens in California. And that had been the plan for a while, that's how we would go and celebrate my birthday. And I remember, as I am accustomed to doing, just trying to move on, and remember in vain trying to put on a brave face and have a good time, even though it was impossible.
Let me stop you for a few things. What, if any, plans were there for Mr. Depp to join you at Coachella?
He was supposed to drive down, have dinner, stay in the room, maybe do some writing or something like that in the room.
At Coachella? At
Coachella, where we were. Coachella happens in a different part of California than we lived in. We lived in Los Angeles, and this happens about 2 to 3 hours away. So I finally got in my car back, and I drove with my best friends in the car.
And I'm going to stop you again because I just have a couple more questions before we go into that part. You said you brought the dogs. Who were the dogs you brought?
Johnny's dog at the time, Boo. My dog, Pistol. We shared them. They're teacup Yorkies, and I believe Raquel, my best friend's dog, which is a mutt.
Okay. What, if any, issues did Boo have with bathroom problems, if you will?
Objection, leading and relevance.
Overruled all that.
She had eaten Johnny's weed when she was a puppy and had bowel control issues for her entire life, among some other issues. She was, we regularly had to take her to the vet to try to figure out, well, what was wrong with this dog. Never met a dog that was quite like this. So she had some control issues, hence why she liked to burrow in the bed. She liked to be in the, by the foot of the bed underneath the covers. And it was customary that they slept in bed with us, but Boo, having the issues she had, we have to leave her in bed so that she wouldn't be encouraged to go to the bathroom, which would happen almost immediately once you put her down on the floor. And sometimes it happened in bed too. But yeah. So
what, if anything, did you notice about any bathroom issues in your bed before you left for Coachella?
Well, Raquel and I were both in that bed with the dogs, and I didn't notice anything, but we left them in the bed while we packed a bag to go to Coachella, so that Boo particularly didn't lose control of her or didn't go to the bathroom on the floor. So we leave them in bed until you're ready to take them outside to the patio, which is their designated bathroom break area.
And what, if any, plans were there? How often did you have housekeeping at that time at your house?
The housekeepers were there every morning. Okay. Or they came every day, as far as I know.
Okay. Now, we'll get you to Coachella, but why did you tell Starling Jenkins that you had been involved in a prank gone wrong?
Objection, hearsay, leading.
I said why, Your Honor. I didn't say what she said.
I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
Okay. Did you commit any kind of prank?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
And why would that not be something you would do?
First of all, I don't think that's funny. I don't know what a grown woman does. I was not also in a pranking mood. My life was falling apart. I at a crossroads in my life that was really serious, and I had just been attacked on my 30th birthday by my violent husband with whom I was desperately in love and knew I needed to leave. It was not really a jovial time, and I don't think that's funny, period. That's disgusting.
And what, if any, understanding did you have of Mr. Depp coming back to your bedroom that night or the next morning?
Objection calls for speculation.
I'm asking what her understanding was.
No, I'll sustain the objection.
Okay. Had you had any conversations with Mr. Depp about him coming back to the house the next day?
No, Johnny didn't come back to that house. That was my, he owned it, but that was my house when we were having any sort of problem. In fact, that was my house just 90% of the time because he just didn't come back. That was not a place that Johnny was going to be in, that Johnny was in, and he had stormed out on my birthday, and as per what we did, he would go and stay at his West Hollywood home, and I would stay at the downtown places. He wasn't going to come back to the
Objection
Eastern
calls for
Columbia.
speculation.
I think she explained her answer on that
Okay.
one, what she
I'll sustain
thought.
just the last part. Okay,
Okay,
next question.
thank you. All right, so let's take you to Coachella. Who drove?
I drove.
Okay, and who was in your vehicle?
My sister, my friend Savannah, I believe, my best friend Raquel, just my girlfriends. I typically surround myself with my girlfriends. It's my sport.
Was there any occasion in which you were riding in the vehicle that Starling Jenkins was driving?
He picked us up from Coachella in the evening when we, as a group, all were ready to leave. That was the day that we went, which was the day that I took MDMA and mushrooms at the same time. Realized very shortly after what a horrible idea that was, considering the state that my life was in. I highly don't recommend that combination at the time. So I didn't feel like being in a crowd. I didn't feel like being at Coachella. I had intended to try to have a good time despite what was going on in my personal life. And I realized that was just not going to happen. And so I wanted to go home. Meaning to be in a bed. I wanted to be, I just wanted to be held by my best friend and watch a movie. And that's what we did. I didn't feel well and wanted to leave.
And when you said you rode back with Starling Jenkins, was it just you, or did you have other people in the vehicle with you?
When we left Coachella, it was my entire group. I wasn't ever alone with Starling. I certainly wasn't anywhere near him. I didn't have a conversation with him. I sat in the very back seat with my best friend next to me, and it was a whole group of us.
Thank you. Your Honor, I don't
Okay.
know. This might be a good breaking point.
All right, that's fine. Okay, ladies, let's go ahead and take our morning recess. Do not discuss the case with anybody, and don't do any outside research. We'll take 15 minutes, okay? All right, we'll just come back then at 10:50. Is that okay? All right, 10:50.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. right, we ready for the jury?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Sure, sure. All right, we ready for the jury then? Yes. All right.
if any, contact did you have with Mr. Depp during the period from April 21 to May 21, 2016?
I had no physical contact with him.
Okay. I'm going to take you to May 2nd, 2016, the Met Gala. Can you please just briefly describe to the jury what a Met Gala is, where it is, and what's involved?
It's arguably the biggest fashion kind of celebrity event, red carpet event of the year. It happens every year in New York City.
And were you invited?
I was invited. Typically, designers will invite people in the public eye to be their, guest, and they will typically dress them, and it's a way for designers or fashion to kind of intersect with a celebrity world, and it's a big event held at the museum every year.
And what, if anything, did you and Mr. Depp do to prepare for that Met Gala?
Well, Johnny and I were we were dressed by Ralph Lauren, guests of Ralph Lauren, and Johnny missed the fitting because it was happening around the date of my birthday party in Los Angeles. But we were planning on going together as Ralph Lauren's guests.
Okay. And did you show up?
I did. I didn't have a phone at the time because I couldn't get it reinstated after Johnny threw it out of the window because no one on his team would respond to me. So I had no way to kind of reinstall it. I had, it's no point in getting a burner phone if you don't know anyone's phone number. So I wasn't sure really what was going on or when he would show up or if he would show up. No one would talk to me on his team. No one would tell me. I didn't know. So I ended up going by myself. Frankly, I wasn't sure if he'd show up and, on the carpet or if he'd show up at the hotel shortly before. I had no way of knowing.
And then did you attend the Met Gala?
I did. I got out of the car and walked the red carpet by myself, escorted by somebody from Ralph Lauren's team. And I sat next to an empty place setting for Johnny that they cleared as soon as we realized that he effectively stood me up on the carpet.
Who did you meet at the Met Gala?
I was standing in line right in front of a gentleman. It was Elon. I didn't recognize him until we started talking. And he had reminded me that we had met once before. He was with his mother.
Okay. And did you strike up a friendship with Mr. Musk after that?
We did. We, as I mentioned, we spoke on the red carpet, kind of in the waiting line of the carpet. He seemed like a real gentleman. He was really nice, and he sat next to me. Well, not next to me. He sat kind of in a nearby table, and we got to speaking that night, and then eventually became friends.
Okay. I'm going to, Michelle, can you pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 46? It's already in evidence. It's Aaron Filatti's notes. And I'm going to ask you to go to page 30. And I'm going to direct your attention to the entry for 5/11/2016, where it says, if I can see, here we go. Let me see if I can do some reasonable highlighting here. Okay, it says client laughed and also reported using illicit drugs, mushrooms and MDMA on 5/9/2016 at home with a high-profile male acquaintance. Client reported that her husband was not aware of the male visitor nor her illicit drug use. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
Who was the high-profile male acquaintance that visited your home on 5/9/2016?
I don't recall even being in LA at that time.
Where were you?
I don't recall. I believe I was in London at the time.
Okay. Did you have a male high-profile client at your home in or around 5/9/2016?
Not around that date. It seems like it's a wrong date.
Okay. And did you use illicit drugs, mushrooms, and MDMA with any high-profile client?
No, I did that at the Coachella Music Festival, and that was the end of that. I learned the hard way that that was a terrible idea.
All right. Well, while we are on these same notes, I'm going to refer to the Coachella, which is up above, and it says it states she ingested mushrooms and MDMA simultaneously while also consuming alcohol, and states she vomited and was high for at least 24 hours straight. Were you high for at least 24 hours straight?
No, I was not. I felt awful, but I was at home feeling awful. At home, meaning at the hotel, with my best friend in bed.
Okay. Well, while I'm still on these notes, let's go. I know while Aaron Filati was testifying, we recall the 5/21/2016 isn't on here. You'd sent her pictures, correct?
Yes, I did.
Then let's go to 5/26/2016, and it says, client reports having the hardest week of my life. Client states she cannot deal with the negative media publicity she has received. And then if we can jump that up, Michelle, to the next page, surrounding the divorce she requested from her husband, J.D. Do you see that?
I do.
Okay. When did you go in for the DVTRO?
May 27th.
So that was the day after Aaron Filati's note saying you just had the toughest week of your life?
That's correct.
Okay. While we are still on this one, let's go up to the first page for the client history. When did you provide a client history to Aaron Filati?
Never.
When did you first get assigned Aaron Filati?
I believe September of 2014.
Okay. Now it says here that client reports a history of substance abuse, including an addiction to cocaine and liquor. When did you have a history of substance abuse, including addiction to cocaine and liquor?
I did not. There's a lot of mistakes in here.
Okay. Did you ever use cocaine?
I have. I used cocaine a few times when I was 18, 19 years old, but stopped using any drugs, including cocaine, when I got into a relationship with my ex-partner. She was very against that, and I'm glad for it.
Okay. Then it also says here that I'm going to move up a little. Here we go. Client admits to history of anxiety, eating disorder, attention deficit disorder, bipolar disorder, codependence issues, and occasional insomnia. When have you had an eating disorder?
I've never had an eating disorder.
Okay. When have you been diagnosed with bipolar disorder?
I've never been diagnosed with bipolar disorder.
Right. When have you been diagnosed with codependence issues?
I have never been diagnosed with codependency issues, although arguably at the time, from where I stand now, I can see that the relationship I was in with Johnny was certainly codependent.
Okay.
But I wouldn't have reported that at the time. I didn't know about that.
All right, and then can we move up a little bit more, Michelle? Thank you. It has, per report from JD, Debbie RN, Dr. Kipper, client AH has reportedly been experiencing increased anxiety and agitation recently and has had several outbursts of anger and rage. Were you present for this being reported to Ms. Filati?
No, this is the detox.
Okay.
This is Johnny's.
And it also says your mood has been labile. What, if any, outbursts of anger and rage and labile mood did you exhibit during the detox?
None that she would have seen. None. I was there for Johnny's detox. This is what Johnny was going through. This is not me.
Okay. And at the time of the detox, was Aaron Filati your nurse yet?
No, I didn't know her, and she wasn't there.
Okay. Thank you very much. You can take this down, Michelle. Now, I'm going to take you to May 21, 2016, and I'd like you to describe for the jury what took place that evening in connection with Mr. Depp.
Johnny and I had not seen each other for the better part of a month, or about a month. I was traveling. I had just shot a campaign in Italy. I spoke to him around that time when I was in Italy. I had gotten a phone. My parents got a hold of me. After I spoke to my parents, I had communicated with Johnny. On that phone call, I didn't know what was going on with him for those weeks. With his sobriety, I didn't know where his state was. I didn't know what state he was in. And when I spoke to him, he was saying what I can only he was going on about scientists and DNA and feces, that he had some scientific analysis done and DNA analysis done, and that, as soon as I heard about this feces, he thought that was a prank, and he was going on about all the scientists that he had conferred about the DNA results with. I just thought he was out of his mind, and thought clearly the drinking and the drugs are not getting better. Clearly the delusions aren't better. So
Objection calls for speculation.
It's not about to prove the truth of the matter. We're talking about what her...
I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
Please continue.
So I hung up from that phone call, assuming that, and then spoke to him once my parents got a hold of me to tell me about Betty Sue. We made a plan, Johnny and I, for him to come over. He said he really needed his wife. He had lost his mother and he missed his wife. He really needed his wife. He said it over and over again. I felt torn. I felt conflicted. I didn't think, obviously, the situation hadn't gotten better with Johnny mentally, and I was afraid that all the work and progress and distance I had finally got on the relationship for the first time. I had a month of distance on it, I didn't want that to be undone, but I also wanted to be, I was affected by the fact that his mother had passed. So he said he wanted to come over and talk about that, and he said he needed his wife, and we made a plan. We made a plan for him to come over during the day, thinking that might mitigate the amount that he would be drinking. Night is a little bit more dangerous. And in the early evening hours, I get a text from him that he's almost there, or that he's there. I think it was around 7:15 or so. And he came over, and we sat on the couch, and at first it was relatively peaceful. I mean, I could tell he was inebriated, but it makes sense. In my head, it made sense. He wasn't like incoherent. It was peaceful. And then he starts talking about the feces again, and this prank that he said one of my friends had left for him in my bed that he wasn't going to be at. And I tried to point out how that didn't make any sense. I'm not even going to be there. I wasn't there. And my friends wouldn't do that. That's not something a bunch of 30-year-old women think is funny. What is he talking about? And he just kept going on and on about it. So I text my friend that it's...
Objection, hearsay.
Don't tell the jury what you texted your friend, but go to the next thing. What did you do next?
I called my friend thinking that it would quell this, what I could only see as a delusion. I thought it was just a delusion he was having, and I thought, I'll hopefully, quell this by calling my friend to if he hears my friend say that didn't happen.
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
It's not offering to prove the truth of it. Thank you. Please continue.
So I thought if I could get my friend on the phone to prove that this didn't happen, we could move on and talk about the issues that we should be talking about. You know, we had, our marriage was over and falling apart in front of our eyes. We hadn't seen each other for a month, and his mom had just passed. I couldn't believe he wanted to talk about feces. So I call this friend thinking that we'll take care of it. The friend doesn't answer. I call another friend who is someone else he claimed. I don't know how both people did this, but he was claiming that this person was responsible. So I call that person. And that person is on speakerphone. And I
Tell
say,
us who that person is.
Io.
Io, tell it right?
Io, tell it right.
Okay. And then you put him on speakerphone with Johnny.
Right in front of Johnny.
Okay. And what happened next?
I allowed for an opportunity for Io to say why this is impossible.
Objection, hearsay.
It's not offered to prove the truth of the matter, as asserted, Your Honor. It's explaining the context that leads to the next acts.
Your Honor, it is being offered
We're
to
not
prove
here. We're not here about whether Io.
I'll sustain
on
the
the bed.
objection. Next question.
All right. All right. So Io is talking. You can't tell us what he said. Okay.
Objection,
He's
Your
talking,
Honor.
correct?
May we approach?
Okay.
So Io is talking. We can't say what he said. What is the next thing that happens on your end with Mr. Depp?
It just made Johnny madder. He got more upset, grabbed the phone, and started screaming at Io. He just started screaming at the top of his lungs, said, "You dyke bitch, you don't know what you're talking," you know, just screaming expletives, insulting names, and telling Io that he can have me and, you know, fuck off, and just screaming at him. It's best I can describe it without getting into the details. He tosses the phone, you know, down on the couch and heads upstairs. I pick up the phone and try to, you know, apologize for the fact that my husband at the time just screamed at my friend on a cold call. I didn't want Io to think that's why I had called Io, you know, to just be screamed at and blamed for something that sounded crazy, for lack of a better explanation. It sounded crazy. Io said something to me on speakerphone, and reminded me I wasn't safe.
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
Your Honor, it's not offered to prove the truth of the matter. It's to show what caused Mr. Depp to be set off and come back. I mean, it's not offered to prove the truth of what he's saying. It's not hearsay. In that
I'll overrule the objection. Go ahead.
Thank you. Please tell us what Io said and what then happened with Mr. Depp.
Io said, "Amber, get out of the house. Get out of the house now. You're not safe. Get out of that house." Io had been there after the cleanup, or for the cleanup, after December 15th, 2015 incident. And had
Objection,
washed
Your Honor,
blood out of my
non-responsive.
pillowcases.
All right.
I think she can provide the
I'll
context.
sustain the objection. Next
Okay.
question.
So please continue.
Johnny hears this when he's on the stairs. He made it up one flight of stairs. Heard this, turned around, came bolting down the stairs, grabbed the phone from my hand, and really started screaming this time. Lit into Io, called Io every imaginable horrible name that you can say to a LGBTQIA person, for one, and any person, any human being ever. I mean, just screamed at Io some really nasty stuff. And when he was done, he says, "You know, you want to have my woman now. You want to have my bitch. You can have, you take her. You can have her." And he with that, picks up, just pulls his arm back with the phone and throws it at my face. Hit me right in my, it felt like my eye. I put my head in my hands and immediately start crying. I said, "You hit me with the phone. Johnny, you hit me." And I'm sitting on the couch. I didn't even have time to react, you know. I didn't even have time to put my hands up. I was still sitting cross-legged in my socks on the couch, and I haven't seen him for a month. And last, you know, several times now that I've seen him, he's hit me, and I didn't even have time to react to this. He comes over to me as I'm crying, and he does that taunting thing to me. He says, "Oh yeah, I hit you, huh? I hit you, yeah?" And he just feels like whacks me on top of my head. Just this heavy ringed hand landed on top of my skull, grabs me by the hair, yanks me up off the couch. I'm struggling to stand up. And I don't know if he was intending to hit me in the face or if he was just trying to grab my face, but he was making this gesture around my face to try to expose my face to him. And he was like, "Yeah, let me see how bad I hurt you. Let me see it. Let me see how bad I hurt you this time. What if I pull your hair back? What if I pull your hair back?" And he yanks my hair back. I'm trying to prevent him from landing the blows to my face. I'm trying to prevent my face from being exposed. And I just remember this mocking taunt he was doing with me as he is yanking me around the room. And then I hear my friend come into the room. I hear her. Johnny hears her too. He lets go of me and turns. And
Just tell the jury who your friend is.
Raquel, my best friend at the time, who lived in the neighboring apartment, she came in, and Johnny moved towards her, and she ran towards me. Johnny looked at her, looked at me. I retreated to the only place I had to go, which is the corner room where the couch was. I retreated kind of to the couch, and Raquel and Johnny both ran up to me. Raquel got in front of Johnny. She kind of managed to get right in front of him, in between he and I. And I'll never forget it. Just very slowly, calm, in just a very slow but very concentrated, very controlled, slow way. Just put both of her arms, her hands up like this, and like I've seen people do with horses. That's what it reminded me of. She just went, "No, no, Johnny, no." And she just got in front of us, in between us, put both of her palms out. Johnny kind of squared off to her, ran into her arms, and she just repeated herself very slowly, very calmly, very directly. He hit both of her arms off of his chest like that and barreled towards me. I instinctively curl up on the couch, and I just feel her arms come around me, next to me. She was sitting on my left next to me on the couch, and I just feel her arms around me. And I'm just looking down at the carpet, feeling her arms. And that's when Johnny, who I can see partially and hear, is right in front of me, and he's screaming at me to get the fuck up. "Amber, get the fuck up. Amber, get the fuck up. Amber, get the fuck up." And every single time he said it, he's screaming it louder and louder and louder. I think he screamed it probably about 10 times, so loudly. The next thing I hear is, "Boss, boss." And I realize that his 2 security guards had come into the apartment after Raquel. I see them or hear them, and Johnny turns to them, and I see Jerry say, "Boss, boss." And I get up off the couch and I say to Jerry,
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
Not offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted at all.
I'll sustain the objection.
All right.
Next one.
So don't tell us what you said to Jerry, just what happened next.
Then they tell him something, and he picks up the bottle that I guess he walked in with. It was a
This is
Magnum.
Mr. Depp or Jerry?
I'm sorry, Johnny.
Okay.
And starts smashing things off the nightstand, the coffee table, starts screaming, and they kind of, I feel them kind of corral him. I'm not making direct eye contact, but I can kind of just sense and feel and sound and hear things smashing as he exits the apartment, kind of knocking things off the countertops and breaking things on the way. I realize he's punching something. I assume it was the picture because it broke right after he walked past it, and he leaves that apartment. I hear him in the hallway, still screaming. I hear more doors opening, more racket. Eventually, Josh, Raquel's husband, comes into the room and brings me to safety, brings Raquel and I to safety in their apartment. And that's where I stayed for the next few hours.
So who called the police?
I believe it was
Objection calls for
Io.
speculation.
Your Honor, this is not, we have to have the context here of somebody called the police, because then the police come. So I think we have to put, it's not offered again to prove the truth of the matter asserted, it's just who called the police.
Your Honor, the objection is not hearsay. It's speculation.
Do you know who called the police?
Yes, I do now.
I'll sustain the objection.
All
Next
right.
question.
Did you have were you present when there was a discussion about calling 911?
Objection calls for hearsay.
I'm asking if she was
I'll
present.
sustain the objection. Next question.
Did you call 911?
No.
Okay. Did Rocky call 911?
Objection calls for speculation.
Do you know whether Rocky called 911?
I do know whether she did.
And did
She did not.
Okay. All right. So what happens, when did you learn that the police had been called?
Roughly an hour, at some point shortly after Johnny and his security guards left.
Okay. And what did you do as a result of knowing that the police were coming?
I felt panicked. I didn't know what to do because I didn't know what they were going to do when they saw the state of the place. He'd also smashed up the other apartment where I kept all my things. So I didn't know what they were going to do. And I panicked. I called the only lawyer I have, which is my entertainment lawyer. He does like my movie contracts and stuff. And I asked him for advice.
And then what, without telling what he said, what happened next?
I called a domestic relations attorney after that conversation.
And had you known this domestic relations attorney before then?
No, I did not.
Did you get that name from your entertainment attorney?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And when you called the domestic relations attorney, without saying what she said, what did you do as a result?
I told the police officers who arrived that I would not
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay.
Again, not offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted.
All right. I'll overrule the objection. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
I repeated to the officers, I refuse to cooperate at this time at the advice of my attorney.
Okay. Did you call your publicist that night?
No.
Okay. Now, I'm going to ask you to take a look at some pictures, but before I get there, I want to just ask you a couple of questions leading up. What were you doing when the police officers arrived?
At that time, after I learned that they were coming, my best friend took pictures of me. We took pictures of the house and my face.
Okay. I'm going to, and did your best friend take any pictures while the officers were there?
We took pictures before and while they were there and after.
Okay.
We took pictures throughout.
Okay. So I'm going to take you now, Michelle, can you bring up Defendant's Exhibit 706? I think we can do the native on this one. Yes, thank you. Does this accurately depict the scene portrayed?
Yes, it does.
Your Honor, I'd like to move the admission of Defendant 706.
No objection.
706 in evidence and published.
And would you please describe to the jury what this is a picture of?
This is